And she's on about how they do it and how they've created social approval and social disapproval, because now they don't have to bring the army regulars in to pull women out who are pregnant with a second child. They get the townspeople to shame them and pull them out themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's a Pavlovian technique that's taught against smokers. And everybody, you see smokers lighting up now in the street and they'll almost stone you to death. That's indoctrination and Pavlovian reaction. Well, it's the same with pregnant women. The neighbors will drag them off to the abortion clinic. And she thought this was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. She was ecstatic. And then, of course, I brought her back to who she was talking to. I says, what gives you the right to think you should do this?
Yeah.
And she said the exact same thing. She was stunned for a second, and she says, well, somebody's got to do it.
Sure.
And that's what you hear from them all.
Exactly.
They don't just talk about it, they're doing it.
Absolutely, and the conviction, again, of these things are beyond, I think, debate for these people, and they will certainly not listen to anyone that, isn't within their own, milieu, so to speak, that they actually are, let's say a non-scientist or whatever, even if scientists themselves would come out and say that, global warming is in that sense is a fraud, or overpopulation in that sense is a fraud, there, because their minds are made up at this point, and there's no turning back, because the agenda, I think, it is set, and they're going to follow through to, I guess, any means necessary.
Any and all means necessary, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Because none of this is, anything that really happens and really matters in the world is never given to the public to debate. It's done at higher quarters, and we have no say in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's a done deal. These people are paid so much as well. They have their own indoctrination, which is simply reinforcement, constant reinforcement, that what they're involved in is a must-be.
Yeah.
And they're told why it must be.
Sure, exactly. And
they're true believers in it, too.
Absolutely, and they wouldn't be in that position if they thought otherwise. So it's no big.
So in this world that's to come, no one will be allowed to live without a purpose to serve the new world state.
Yeah.
Efficiency is to be the new rule. Total efficiency.
Yeah, that's the behave after the beehive model, I guess.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the system seems to be, at least at this point, also be favoring, as you said, psychopaths that actually have no sense of, feeling for your fellow man, so to speak.
They have none. They truly have none, and yet, like a good psychopath will really amaze you with their hospitality and how cordial they are.
Sure.
But when you listen to their opinions, that's when you're floored. Because they can say it in such a nice way, something which to them is just so practical.
Absolutely.
But to you, they're telling you of mass murder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as you say, maybe to be able to lay it out in a coherent and they're able to sound responsible in that sense, and they, I guess, found out that to be friendly in that sense is something that serves the purpose better. So it's just a role that they adopt basically in order to further their agenda, or to be able to speak to other people who might so that other people might respect them also, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Make no. See, a psychopath has one other little thing. I mean, he has a tremendous ego.
Yeah.
And he loves applause. And little awards along the way in presentations, or even going over to Britain to get knighted.
Yeah, sure.
Or getting their countries. In Canada, give them OBEs. They just love to get these awards because it's a sign of their high worth.
So that's where the medals and the diplomas and all of that crap comes in, I guess.
Yes, the titles, yeah.
Yeah, the titles, exactly. And I guess that many of these also, in that regard, is kind of have a Masonic background, in that sense that there are, that you even get your degree, of course, when you go out from school and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely. Plus they have professors in all universities, have had since they started them up, in fact. Again, from the encyclopedist group.
Yeah.
who belong to these agencies, this world religion, this elitist society, and they choose and pick people, students at school for their tasks. The CIA, which is only part of it, recruits from university because certain professors are on the lookout for certain personality types.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. It's a model set up for the self, so that the system can self-sustain. Even if we have a few dropouts in personnel here or there or whatever, the system, I guess, it's set up in such a manner that it will, as I said, kind of sustain itself, basically.
Sure.
Huh.
And even with Africa had an overdosing on left-wing, right-wing politics, especially communism versus capitalism.
Sure.
They had more of it than most people. The same guys were funding all sides to keep them in perpetual warfare.
Yeah.
And that killed millions off just by starvation. Most of the starvation in Africa over many years wasn't caused by poor weather or lack of anything. It was the lack of time and ability to get food planted and get it in because of the local wars that were going on.
I see. In regards to the tippy-toe tactics towards a government that stretch worldwide, so to speak, I noticed that is happening on all other continents too, of course, but that there is a creation of the African Union. And do you think that they will kind of lead this in towards at least a first step towards a solution to the problem?
Well, it's already underway.
Yeah, it is.
It's already underway. Mandela was basically raised up to do this in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
He knew. I'm sure he knew it from the very beginning that eventually that was the function of it. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Who knows where we might end up? In regards to AIDS and so forth. That I guess that is the main genocide plan that they've got. I haven't read up on this too much at this stage yet, but I guess there is. Do you know this, Alan? Is this a tremendous problem still, or are they able to fight some of this off, or is this
no,
occurring?
It's tremendous, because what you'll find it's mainly in the youth. The youth they have very little in Africa, but what the West ensures they get is, apart from the fashions and the hats on backwards and the same music, they give them the music and the machines to play them, and they ensure that certain drugs come in, but mainly alcohol that's homemade even. And they have parties like outside their villages, etc. And then they do what they think the West is doing. They get occasional Western movie, and so the teenagers try to indulge in the same sexual type experiences as the West, and plummet. They come down with AIDS.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem. When you're destroying a culture and all the old taboos that culture had that kept it functioning are gone, and that culture is lost, and yet tries to emulate what they see as superior, they will emulate it to the full. And when you have an AIDS problem to boot injected into there, you now are guaranteed that AIDS is rampant. It's terrible. Rampant through all the teenagers.
Yeah. In regards to the game plan, then I guess, let's say that they're able to develop this fully in that regard, to have an African Union, and of course we have a European Union, and the American Union is full underway also, of course, and then we have an Asian Union. In regards to a time plan, do you have any kind of idea? In a sense, as you say, these are all already in place, but a more official way that they actually are going to.
More official.
Yeah.
Anything between. I know that a lot of the laws that the UN are projections, because they use 10, 20, and 30-year plans, even 50-year plans.
Yeah.
and you'll find that in their agendas, which they publish.
Hmm.
You'll find a lot of them end up around 2030 or so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
However, we know that the American content is to be officially, openly declared one by about 2010. The UN is to be officially declared world government by 12.
Ah, yeah.
And so Africa could either linger a little bit or it will come under. It's already technically under it anyway, because
sure.
the few African countries where the UN have heavily been involved in basically belong to the United Nations. That's why they're a bit more prosperous.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and of course we have that we have been talking previously on this show about the possibility, very likely of microchipping that population. Of course, now the most recent thing in regards to this was I think VeriChip has put in RFID tags in people who suffer from diabetics, I think.
Yes, that's a fact. However, I saw one of these public broadcasting programs a while back, well called programs, because the public broadcasting is just another way for the foundations to put in nature movies and stuff to brainwash us. And it was about a place in Africa. Now it was on the outskirts of the Bantu area. The Bantu were the real nomadic tribes who had their herds and travelled. Well, they were all rounded up, by the United Nations. Now they're inside camps.
Oh,
because
nice.
no one is to exist in the old way.
Sure.
And I'm sure they'll just start dying off inside. However, before that, this is what they were doing. And not just in that area, but it showed you, the United Nations was offering the males free sterilization, a vasectomy. And what you would get in return was a little, they didn't give you clothes. What they gave you was a little chain that went around your neck with a card. And you were given so many credits per month. And a white van would come round your area once a month, and you went in there and you put your card through the machine, and you could buy certain things that you wanted from that truck. That was your reward. Straight out of what basically Charles Galton Darwin suggested in his book, The Next Millennium. That people would give up their fertility for goods. Yeah.
Amazing. Again, I keep returning to this because of course it's a dire situation and desperation in regards to all this information is quickly at hand for all of us who thinks and ponder upon these questions. But I mean, I again want to return to the fact that, I mean, what is it within the human spirit that these people are so afraid of? I mean, they're desperately trying to control us and everybody who are, different in that sense. I mean, there must be kind of the genuine life force within all of us that they're actually afraid of. What's your take on that?
They are afraid. They're afraid of those individuals, and they've mentioned this in a few different books. Sometimes it's a little camouflage, but what they basically say is that, and they declared war when they set up the League of Nations, which transformed into the United Nations. They declared war on the individual. Now, it was so amazing to me to read all this stuff when I was small, because I knew that the wars already were funded and started by wealthy elite people. And here are the same books that were now promoted from the League of Nations and the United Nations, saying that they had to make war on individualism because the individual was a cause of all problems and discord throughout history. I thought, so their way they'd already changed perception and reality by a blanket statement. But what they were afraid of, because they knew that within every generation you do have some people who do not succumb to the tremendous indoctrination of brainwashing we've had, especially since national education, again promoted by Masonic groups, and they boast about that openly in their books. Now it's an international education association to get a standard worldview. Well, you see